Wanda's Place by Paul Grainet. Wanda's Restaurant, Kitchen, Day, Julio, 30s, a man with South American features, muscular but not muscle-bound. Fixes himself a meal of pierogi, onions, vegetable salad, beets, and cabbage. Wanda's Restaurant, Dining Room, Day. Julio puts his plate of food down in a restaurant decorated to maximize nostalgia for Poland. He sits at a table, picks up a fork, cuts into the pierog, the singular of pierogi, polished dumplings, lifts it to his mouth. Someone struggles to put the key in the front door. Carefully, Julio puts down his fork with a half pierog on it, stands up, and cautiously approaches the door. Wanda's Restaurant, Doorway, Day. Outside, Veronica, 30, Polish-American, blonde, who was raised in the northwest side of Chicago, but now lives in Los Angeles, stands fumbling with keys on a key ring while texting on a phone. Beside her stands two large suitcases. Julio opens the door.
Thank you.
Veronica tries to lift and carry in her two suitcases without ceasing to text.
Let me.
Julio picks up one of the suitcases and follows Veronica in as she continues to text. Wanda's Restaurant, Dining Room, Day. Veronica stops in the middle of the dining area and texts as Julio brings in the first and then the second of the large suitcases and puts them off to the side. He also locks the front door. Veronica completes her text.
Is my mother here?
No,
I am a week early.
your mother will be surprised.
Probably.
Her phone pings and Veronica starts texting again.
How is Los Angeles?
Excuse me?
How is Los Angeles?
Good. Meeting a lot of interesting people. People that can really help my career.
Julio sits down and picks up the fork.
What are you doing?
Eating?
Is it break time?
Not exactly.
Did someone give you permission to eat?
Definitely no.
How long till customers start coming in?
Julio considers this exchange, puts down the fork with the half pierogi on it, stands and goes to the kitchen through the door, on which a private area sign is conspicuously displayed.
Wait.
Her cell phone rings. Some ring appropriate for someone from Midwest now living in LA.
Hi. Yes, this is she. How wonderful to hear from you, Gable. I'm always looking for opportunities to get more exposure. A commercial? National? No, local market is great. No such thing as a small market, right?
She walks farther into the restaurant. Cooler, Day. Julio examines produce for a salad. There's a knock on the back door. Wanda's Restaurant, back door, Day. In the lens of the peephole, Enrico, a lanky Mexican-American man, stands waiting for the door to be opened. Kitchen, Day. Julio lets Enrico enter.
Buenas. How long until customers start coming in?
Buenas. 2 hours.
What's with you?
Julio looks at Enrico, frowns and motions with his head.
I thought she was at school until next month.
She's a week early.
Enrico opens the door to the dining room and looks out. Dining room, Day. There's Veronica on her cell phone. There's a plate of food on the table. The front door opens and Wanda, 70s, a Polish woman originally from World War II Warsaw, a European woman with the style of someone from European capital, enters her own businesses. She puts her purse down under a counter. She sees Veronica.
Veronica, what are you doing here?
Kitchen, Day. Enrico carefully closes the door between the kitchen and the dining room.
She's pretty.
Julio looks at Enrico. Enrico gets ready for work.
Who goes to college to study acting and still is supported by her parents?
Well, I'd support my children too as long as they wanted to stay in school. If I had the money. Who cares? Whatever they need.
Do you think we'll teach her how not to be a racist bitch?
I'd settle for her learning how not to be a bitch. Plain and simple.
The boss is here.
At that moment, Wanda enters the kitchen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How long till customers start coming in?
A little less than 2 hours.
Whose plate is that on the table in the dining room?
Mine.
Why do you leave it there?
I didn't choose to leave it there.
It's your plate, but you didn't choose to leave it there?
That's right.
Who chose to leave it there?
Not me.
I don't have time for these games, Julio. I have enough in my hands. Did you see she's back? Week early?
Now Julio looks up at Wanda.
Veronica!
Wanda storms out of the kitchen.
Veronica!
Dining room, day. The fork with the half piece of pierogi lies on top of the plate on the table. Wanda and Veronica are seated at the table. Julio comes out of the kitchen, wiping his hands with a towel.
Yes, Wanda? Did you ask for me?
Please, sit down.
Julio thinks about this. He looks at Veronica, who leans back in her chair with her arms crossed.
Please, sit down.
Julio takes a step forward. Veronica stands up. Julio immediately stops.
I am not apologizing when I haven't done anything wrong. I hung up on one of the biggest agents in LA for this.
I will not ask you to sit down and be quiet again.
Veronica measures her mother. Wanda is rock solid serious. Veronica looks at Julio. His expression is quiet, without emotion. Veronica sits down like an angry little girl. Wanda turns to Julio.
I want you to hear something. Please. It's important to me, per favor.
Julio approaches and sits down, stiffly. Wanda turns to Veronica.
By the time I was your age, I had opened my first restaurant in Poland. And under communist. And your older sisters.
Oh, here we go. I need to find a man and make babies like my older sisters.
You can do with your life whatever you want. Go. Leave now. Start your life. You are free.
Veronica does not budge.
During the Warsaw Uprising, I ate shoes.
I have heard the shoe story before too.
But Judah hasn't. We hid in a cold cellar for 3 weeks. We survived by licking pipes for moisture after the water had run out. And yes, the boy loud chose to eat them. There was no more food. This was when I was 7 years old. To the 4th week, we couldn't take it anymore. Your Aunt Godzia and me. She was 2 years older than me. When everyone else was still asleep, there were about 10 other people in that cellar with us. We went upstairs. Only 2 walls of the building were standing. The entire first floor had collapsed, but the central stairway still led up to the sky. There wasn't a roof, of course, but our apartment on the 3rd floor was still there. So we climbed up. It's ridiculous how dangerous all of this was. The door to our apartment was locked as usual. I took the keys that hung around my neck from under my blouse and opened the door. It was like a miracle. Our apartment had survived intact. There it was. Every picture, photograph, chair, tablecloth, vase, flower, standing there in the bright sunlight. We crept through the apartment and went to the kitchen, untouched like the rest of the house. We opened a cabinet, and there was a jar of some tomato soup my mother had made. My sister made a pile of sticks from the debris of the building. Got a pot. We took out some kitchen matches from a drawer, lit a fire, and cooked the soup. I've never tasted a more delicious soup than that. And just as my sister and I finished our soup, the front door burst open and 4 men in German uniforms burst into the apartment. We could understand them. Called them Russians, but they were Ukrainians who had sided with the Nazis against the Soviets. They hated the Soviets more. They had spotted the smoke of the fire and it rose into the cloudness at about the heads. The officer came up to me as the younger of the two of us, pulled out a revolver and pointed it at my head. He turned to my sister and asked her where everyone else was hidden. My sister stared at me. With my eyes, I let her know not to say anything. So my sister said nothing. The officer ordered the building checked. Somehow, they never found the coal cellar. We were taken away and ended up in a prisoner of war camp in Germany. Never saw our mother again. I really don't know what happened to her. Father had died at the beginning of the job. We were orphans.
What happened to everyone else in the cellar?
Most of them survived. They made it out. Some of them are friends to this day. But my mother disappeared.
Julio nods.
Julio knows more about this restaurant than I do. Can make whatever decision he needs to make. Whether he needs to make it. And unless you are ready to learn every single thing he knows about running this business successfully, you are never to interfere with his decision. And God forbid, should you ever again deny anyone something to eat. Julio knows what hunger is. You do not. You will lose everything. I promise. If I find out that you ever do that again.
Wanda is finished. Veronica looks at Julio, who looks as stoic as when he first sat down. Her mother is about to stand up.
Of course. The son she never had. You are everything she dreamed of. This restaurant was meant for someone like you. You don't even know what it's been like to live with her all of my life. None of us, 3 daughters, none of us ever lived up to your expectations. And don't think that because Anya and Ella won't tell you the truth that they don't agree with me. Complete bullshit.
Veronica stands up and storms into the kitchen. Enrico, who has obviously been eavesdropping, scurries away from her fury as the door between the kitchen and the dining room flies open. Wanda shakes her head. Julio stands and puts his hands on Wanda's shoulder. She doesn't react. Julio takes the plate of food from the table.
Be careful when you're up front.
Door was locked. Customers in 1 hour.
Wanda nods and looks at him.
Vámonos. Time to get to work. Customers in 1 hour.
Kitchen, day. Julio stands against the counter and finishes his plate of food. There's a knock on the door. Julio takes a step towards the door, but Veronica, on her phone ringing, exits the office, answers the phone, and beats him to the door.
Thank you so much for calling me back.
Check who it is.
Veronica opens the door without checking. Wanda's restaurant, back door, day. With a surprised look on his face, Frank, a white guy in his 40s, 50s, with tattoos on his arms, looks at her.
You should check who it is before opening the door.
No, now is a very good time to talk.
Veronica trades places with Frank, who enters the kitchen, shakes his head, and closes the door. Wanda's restaurant, back door, later. In the lens of the peephole, Veronica scans and texts. Wanda's restaurant, back door, day. Julio opens the door. Veronica doesn't look up but steps back.
Can I talk to you for a moment?
Julio steps outside and closes the door behind himself. Veronica completes her text.
I need to keep this job.
Veronica looks up at him.
I shouldn't have said what I said. I know.
Your mother is a good person, a good boss.
Our family is complicated.
I just want to keep this job. I don't want to leave.
You want to leave? Because of me?
I'm not in your family.
I know that.
If you need me to leave, I will leave.
I don't want you to leave.
Your mother must know this. It is very important.
Veronica looks at Julio and nods.
Thank you.
Julio knocks on the door, and as they wait, Julio and Veronica exchange a smile, just as her phone rings. She shrugs and takes the call.
Who is it?
It's me.
Enrico opens the door and they enter.
Hi, Bill. It's good to hear from you. I'm in Chicago just for a few days.
Dining room, day. Veronica is wiping cutlery. Wanda comes out of the kitchen.
So you remember a little bit about the business?
You are lucky to have Julio working for you.
I know. Thank you for talking to me.
Veronica nods.
Go tell them there's a 5 minute till customers start coming in.
Veronica heads to the kitchen. Her phone dings. She takes it out and starts texting. Cooler, day. Julio enters the cooler just as Veronica comes into the kitchen, texting.
5 minutes.
There's a knock on the back door.
Make sure to check who it is.
Veronica passes the open door and the cooler head down, texting. Julio shakes his head. Door opens.
ICE, police, don't move.
Veronica is pushed to the side by an ICE Agent 1, a middle-aged white woman with a piece of paper in front of her. Veronica stands impotently against the wall directly across from Julio, as 2 more ICE agents pass her. The world around Julio begins to shrink.
Are you Federico Enrico Gonzalez? Doesn't matter if you don't answer. Okay, turn around and put your hands behind your back.
There's one more male.
Juan Julio Fernandez? Ma'am, do you know the whereabouts of this man?
As the world now falls in on Julio even further, his eyes desperate with fear, he shakes his head slowly as Veronica's eyes naively dart and lock gaze with his eyes for a split second. Julio's head and heart shrinks to the ground. ICE Agent 1 steps into the doorframe between Veronica and Julio.
Turn around and put your hands behind your back.
Kitchen day. Veronica watches Julio execute the orders exactly. Veronica steps forward the ICE officer.
Wait a minute.
Ma'am, step back now.
Veronica, no.
Veronica freezes. Julio is put quickly in plastic handcuffs.
There's one more, right?
Veronica looks at Frank. He shakes his head.
Uh-huh.
Veronica looks over at ICE Agent 2 as Enrico is pushed out the back door by ICE Agent 3. ICE Agent 2 looks down at the list in his hand.
Wanda, whoa, watch.
The door to the dining room opens and in steps Wanda. She stands at attention.
Wanda Wojciechowska reporting.
What?
ICE Agent 2 walks over to Wanda.
Turn around and put your hands behind your back.
Wanda does exactly as instructed.
Okay, let's go.
Stop.
Veronica steps forward again.
Ma'am, I won't tell you again to step back.
Frank pulls Veronica back. The agent cuffs Wanda as ICE Agent 1 pushes Julio past Veronica and out the back door.
Okay, you two, follow them.
The agent pushes Wanda out. Wanda is calm as she passes Veronica and even gives her a little nod and smile. The back door shuts closed.
Hello?
Veronica pulls away from Frank.
What do I do now?
Hello, anyone here?
I really have no idea. Call a lawyer? Hello?
The reality of what had happened still hasn't really sunk in for Veronica as she stares blankly at Frank. Veronica's cell phone rings. She ignores it.
I think you have to make more clearer, I don't know, that they were immigrants because part of the point of the last part of the story. This is a short film or a play?
It is a short film.
Okay, this is a short film. I thought because you didn't say in advance that it was a play. Is this story, this monologue, this story that Wanda tells. I think, well, let's say it is too long. It's if you're gonna play it like a short film, we need visuals about it. I would say so, or explore how to say it in another way. And I think that story is very dramatic, but I don't find it's like I don't know. Thinking about Sophie's Choice, you have to have a story that there is a conflict in the story that's gonna strike the characters that are, especially the one that is telling the story. So I think you have two stories in the same story. Maybe you tell the big story just to say that we as an audience say, oh, that's a sad story that this woman have. She has to struggle in her hometown, and then she's in another country and she has this past. But I would say that I don't feel the connection between that story and the last one. And I want to quote something that Walt Disney said every time that he did a short film. You have to think in one idea and one feeling to communicate to the audience, because you don't have enough time. So obviously you can share more than that, more than one idea and one more feelings. But in this one, I don't understand, and unfortunately you are not here. I know you love your characters. I know you have a great story to tell, but I don't see the connection and I don't see the metaphor, the main metaphor that you want to say. So that will be my note. Like define the story you want to tell, and this big story that she's going to remember has to deal with the main conflict that is outside. That, by the way, there is no conflict outside. So we have to create a conflict outside the characters and Julio. Maybe Julio is worried that okay, the police are coming for me, or the daughter is seeing that between the mother and Julio they are doing something behind, like she doesn't get it until the end. Oh, she was trying to help him with the, I don't know, with the papers, the passport, whatever. So you have to create drama around them in order to make it, well, to tell the story. If not, you don't have a story. You have just like a situation.
Thank you.
Right?
Yes.
So I felt like the long story was very much a stylistic choice that you might feel really strongly about. So I say go for it. And I've seen long stories like that and long takes done really well. I feel like if it's not working, you can cut it down. In editing, you can have lots of reaction shots, but I feel like that story, in terms of thematically, I interpreted it as it's from Wanda, a warning to her daughter. She has some foresight that the ice raid might happen. That's how I interpreted it. And she's sort of warning her, you might have to take over, like, get your shit together. And that's how I interpreted it. And I do feel like thematically it could be sort of tightened a little bit, not necessarily shorter, but focused a little bit more to have that kind of function. But that's how I interpreted it, at least by the end. And so yeah, and that's how so I guess that's what I would say.
Thank you.
So Pavel, I think you have a wonderful short film about unaccomplished things. I think everything, even the food, I mean, relationships between the characters, and even the food is unaccomplished. Even, the food is like a leitmotif, like throughout the whole story, that is telling us constantly that something's gonna happen. The tension is there because the food has not been eaten. So therefore you have that's my comment about unaccomplished things. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, you wanna.
Thanks all over again.
Exactly. You're gonna play with the thing about that they're waiting the customers. Maybe I will explore a little bit about that story that she tells related with that. I know I'm more like mathematic. Like I want to feel connections between one thing and the other. Right?
Well, I guess I did feel a connection.
Yeah.
So I feel like I could feel more, but I guess it's maybe a different interpretation. Yeah.